Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I'm Naomi McNish. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. No-fly zones enforced for Carnival 2025. Guns, ammo and drugs seized in police raids. Police probe wave of break-ins across 3 areas. Valentine's Day violence, 3 wounded in separate attacks. And Munilal demands answers over missing regiment ammunition. Now for the details. As Trinidad and Tobago prepares for Carnival 2025, the Civil Aviation Authority is reminding drone operators of strict no-fly zones to ensure public safety. The police have designated restricted airspaces across Port of Spain, Chaguaramas, Caroni, and several industrial areas until March 8th. Additionally, drones must not be flown near airports, helipads, or over large crowds. The Police Air Support Unit will be monitoring drone activity, particularly in Port of Spain, to prevent safety risks. Authorities warn that unauthorized drone use diverts critical resources and compromises security during the festivities. 2 men were arrested and multiple illegal items, including firearms, ammunition, and drugs, were seized in police operations over the weekend. In Point Fortin, officers recovered a loaded revolver after suspects fled a roadside gathering. In Sandy Grande, a 27-year-old was arrested for marijuana possession, while another illegal firearm was found hidden under a tree. Meanwhile, in Caparo, police discovered a homemade shotgun and ammunition in a forested area. Investigations are ongoing as law enforcement intensifies efforts to crack down on illegal weapons. Police are investigating 3 separate break-ins in Chaguaramas, Grand Couva, and Marabella. In Chaguaramas, a burglar at the food hut was caught after an alert resident intervened, leading to the suspect's arrest. Meanwhile, in Grand Couva, thieves stole power tools worth $7,800 from a shipping container at Pomeroy Estate. And in Marabella, a school cafeteria was broken into with $800 in snacks and drinks stolen. 1 suspect remains in custody as police continue their investigations. Police are investigating 3 violent attacks that took place on Valentine's Day. In Chaguaramas, a 32-year-old man was ambushed at a garage by a group armed with a cutlass and metal pipe. In Arima, a 50-year-old was found bleeding from stab wounds after a dispute. And in Princestown, a 20-year-old man was stabbed in the abdomen during a bar altercation. All victims are receiving medical care and police are searching for the suspects. Orapooch East MP Dr. Rudal Munilal is calling for an urgent parliamentary probe into the disappearance of 25,000 rounds of ammunition from the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment. Munilal criticized National Security Minister Fitzgerald Hines, calling the incident a major failure in security management. He is demanding an emergency Joint Select Committee meeting to investigate how the ammunition went missing and who had access to the stockpile. The government has yet to respond to the concerns. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I'm Naomi McNish. Thanks for watching.
WESN.
Hello, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to Breakthrough, right here on WESN Content Capital. I am your host, Mark Anthony Peter, and joining me, as per usual, at the Breakthrough table is my co-host, Sean Michael Small. Good morning, Sean.
I mean, I feel so bad when you say as per usual because last week I totally.
Oh wait, I forgot
hung in.
I forgot my word. Sorry, let me try that again. And joining me at the breakthrough table is my elusive co-host, Sean Michael Small.
Oh gosh, yeah, up on one time all of a sudden you're elusive. Elusive. What is that supposed to mean? I'm elusive. Listen, I'm sorry. The Super Bowl was the night before, and that was weighing on my mind for that was one of the most interesting games of that whole league for the year. It wasn't an entertaining game, but it was an interesting game from an analytical point of view.
Right.
Makes the off-season interesting. So it was one of those things where I need time to switch off. This is the introvert part of me. I need time to myself for my brain to process all emotions to get to a neutral state. So to go from watching Super Bowl in public to switch the brain off, that wasn't happening. So it was what it was last week. Also, there were some other logistical things with my show, and I just kind of forgot we had a breakthrough. You know, technically, I didn't know that we had one.
Like I said, elusive. Anyways, but I'm
you know what?
glad to have you back.
If a robber thinks I'm elusive and thinks maybe I need to find another target, I'll take that. I'll take that. Yeah, I'm elusive.
I am so weak. Why? Why? Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're moving swiftly along from that. But before we get into the topic of discussion this morning, I have a very important announcement.
Okay.
So, I am producing a concert, right? One Voice presents What Love Is, an Easter celebration, happening on Sunday, the 6th of April at the Little Carib Theatre.
Look at all of those happy people professionally photographed.
I know, right?
And,
I am so
and everyone is smiling.
Yes, everybody is smiling.
Okay, you gotta tell Josh to, I don't know is that Josh?
Joshua, yes.
That doesn't look like Joshua at all.
That is, wow. Show me on live TV, please. Don't clown my people. Please. Oh my gosh. But yes, that's happening on Sunday, the 6th of April at the Little Carib Theatre. Now, obviously, I'm very excited for this show. Like, since our launch last year, we received a lot of positive support, and I am so grateful for everything that we've been able to do. And so, with that, I'm very excited and looking forward to everything that we can do in the future.
And it's a Little Carib, so I might actually make this one.
Great. Great. Thank you very much. It's 10 minutes away from your home. You can do this. But so is work. But then he wasn't here for breakthrough last week. So,
No, technically, the studio is closer than Little Carib.
Okay.
Just saying.
Well, there you go. But one thing that you may not know, for when it comes to One Voice's concerts, many of our proceeds goes towards organizations within the community that do good work, especially that do good work with children. You know, that's a huge passion of mine, again, as a teacher and educator and mentor to many. Any sort of, it's always, you know, important to me to support all of those local organizations that help children, especially those who have those homework centers, for those who need those extra lessons, for those who need the support. You know, yes, some of our schools, they do get funding from the government, but sometimes it doesn't always come on time, and sometimes it takes a very, very long time, and some of them have huge needs, especially infrastructural needs and all of those things. So anytime you support a One Voice concert, you support your local community organization that does good work. So looking forward.
Question, so the proceeds, as in the profits after costs?
Yes.
So you haven't necessarily, because this is very new, so it's not like you have managed to get a whole PR machine to get corporate sponsorship so regularly. You know, essentially, this is what some nonprofits do. You get sponsors, they kind of pay for the costs, and then the profits then will either go back into the organization to maintain it, because, I mean, depending, the previous organization that we did, you know, stuff needed to be paid for throughout the year, for especially for the teenagers and the kids and stuff like that, you know, overheads and things like that. But then in this case, it could be, you know, you all haven't necessarily reached, this is just the second paid ticketed concert.
Yeah.
So, you know, you also have to work with the revenue to give back.
Yeah. So it's the way we do it, just for full transparency, depending on whichever organization we work with, whether it's a church or whatever, we would speak with the people that are in charge, and we will come up with a percentage that works well for everybody once all of the expenses are covered. But even if it's just most of the proceeds, most of the profits, it's a significant amount. It's usually more than 50% of the profits that goes towards, right? So, but that's something, because it's all about, for me, it's all about building community. It's all about building community, supporting community. And, you know, I see it as a win-win. Our mission is joy and service through music, right? So when people come, so many of people have seen our work and come to our concerts, and they're like, they really enjoy it, and you know, it fills them with such a joy and such a light that they really, really enjoy it, and they have a good time. So that's something that that's the joy that we're bringing. We're always also being of service to them by giving them that thing that they can look forward to, right?
Yeah.
Giving them that sort of experience that they can look forward to, and then the service extends beyond the concert where, you know, those donations are given.
Because, that leads me to my next question. You have done concerts in churches before, and then the last one, the first one where you had a ticket, it was in a church, and it's not in Port of Spain. So now you're coming into a venue, not necessarily a large venue, but still an established venue in Port of Spain. Geographically, it's a bit removed from your usual spot, so potentially removed from your regular audience, at least part of it, right? And it's removed now, you know, it's a lot easier to tell a church, well, yeah, we could give you some money, and we have it in your church. So the costs, it's easy for us to figure it out. Little Carib it's a professional venue. They have their fees that they're gonna charge. So like, why make that choice? Because it's not necessarily bigger than a church that it could hold more people, right?
Right. So Little Carib, for a couple of reasons. The repertoire that we're doing, the style of concert that we're doing, it has a particular look that would not work well in many of the churches that we've done.
This is where some artists take non-religious stuff in church, and
it's still religious, but it takes more of a contemporary gospel feel.
Okay.
So there's a specific look that I want.
Right.
With that, on that note as well.
Right, because it's an Easter concert.
Right, yes.
Right, my mistake. I forgot that, yes.
So there's that. Secondly, why they moved to Little Carib, I think, and I guess this is a little bit of PR for Little Carib as well. You know, Little Carib has a very important role in the arts community in Trinidad and Tobago, right? And I think it's only when I got to the site visit that I saw the layout, because I've only been a couple of times, but it's a little bit fuzzy.
Yeah,
right?
Especially when you're in the audience, everything is dark.
And everything is dark. It's like, you know, you're just trying to get up because, you know, the show is done, you had a great shot, and then you just sort of leave. But when I saw it, I said, this is great, because obviously it's not like we're forgetting the churches, but I think there's always a time and place. I think sometimes, yes, coming back to the repertoire, there's certain repertoire that works good in a church, acoustically, visually, that sort of thing. But in terms of this sort of gospel contemporary that we're doing, we're really trying to, Little Carib really, really fits for me. On the note of, you know, just the expenses of it all, I will say, like, I've received a lot of support from family and friends who have said, you know, you're doing good work. So I'm grateful to say I have a pool of people that would support me.
Right.
Support the projects financially.
Either donate their time, maybe give a little bit of financial donation, so that you would have the capital to get everything off the ground.
Correct is right. Yeah. Because again, at the end of the day, the mission is very important, because it's for the singers. My goal is a very healthy and joyful space that we could come and perform and do what we want to do, what we like to do. Right? For the audience, it's something that they can come and enjoy, and obviously extend it towards the wider community. Some sort of, donation goes towards them so that they can continue doing their good work. Because I don't believe in just having a concert for having a concert's sake. Right. There must be some greater purpose to it for me. And if the projects are able to serve both those who are involved in the projects, those who are the audience that takes in the projects, and those who may not know about the projects, but we can extend a helping hand, I'm all for it. That's really what it is about for me.
This, maybe not completely directly, but it touches on something that I was speaking about earlier on Talking Point, and this might transition us potentially into the topic that you wanted to speak about today. And I was talking about brain drain, and what I think is the issue. Not only, yes, we know that, okay, we have a brain drain, we lose smart people, right? But also the fact that we lose people that may have been the cornerstones to build things, to develop things, to help solve the country's problems, right? One of the interesting things with music is it's both an industry that naturally allows people to leave and come back very easily. And I think one of the few successes with Gate is the fact that more often than not, I could be wrong, but this is my impression, people who engage in music education at tertiary level, maybe they are more serious about their profession than the average student, or maybe once they get to being a working person, then there's a whole other set of rough patches because the industry needs to grow to facilitate. I mean, there's always need for teachers, but how many people want to just be a teacher, right? And then how, if I'm a master in some sort of orchestral instrument, I can't necessarily teach that. I mean, if I have piano, I could go teach music, but if it's some kind of, oboe or something, I can't go and teach.
You can, but you'll have a harder time.
I'll have a harder time. How do I lead my class of 8-year-olds with an oboe? It's not quite the same.
But you start off with recorder first, that's why.
Well, no. But like, say if it's a singing class, piano is one thing, and an oboe or a violin.
So yeah, it becomes less common depending on the instrument. So you're absolutely correct. So especially in Trinidad and Tobago.
But the point is here you have a small group because you want to fulfill a certain role, fulfill a certain niche. You're looking about what about something that people I know that they want to do it, the audience wants it. You're developing something. It's then putting back into the community. It's actually hitting both the points that I brought up, in its small way, but it's still hitting both areas. It is developing something, helping in its small way, helping the industry to develop and grow. But it's also, we have problems. How do we solve the problems? Well, not everybody is going to be prime minister and literally I'll get policy solve the problem. What about the people on the ground who is like, well, until education is solved, I'll help get money for a lessons class. And this is the thing. And maybe we're fortunate that we have so many educated, talented, and now technically skilled, hold back to one of the talks we had a couple of weeks ago. Now that they have the skills, right, and we haven't necessarily lost all of the artists in the brain drain, we still have some like yourselves and some even longer established than you, which is the topic of discussion, who are doing projects that kind of put back in, because I fear this is a vicious cycle where Trinidad's not a nice place to live compared to other places. But if people keep leaving because of that and not try to stay here and build something and make it nicer, then it's like a vicious cycle that keeps feeding itself.
So so that sort of brings us, you're absolutely correct. So that kind of brings us to our topic of discussion today, which is sort of like how art can be a reminder of how beautiful Trinidad and Tobago is. So it's now I think it's no secret that Freetown Collective is a huge inspiration for me, right? And obviously, the co-founder and lead vocalist Mohammed Mawakil, he in a Boom 94 FM article recently said that we must have art that reminds us of how beautiful this place is, right? This came off of the heels of the success of their recent release, Freetown Collective's recent release, Take Me Home, which has been getting a lot of good feedback, and I think it's hitting. Apologies for being redundant. It's hitting home for a lot of people.
Yes,
especially those of us who may be not just here, but also who are away and want to come home and all of those things. I can't wait to come home for Carnival and all of those things that remind them of home, the beauty that reminds them of home. There was a recent media release from them, and they said, Take Me Home is sort of like a personal confession and cultural statement, intertwining themes of homecoming, nostalgia, and self-discovery, which is, I think, that kind of hits for a lot of people. And so the full quote from the article, Mohammed said, I think there's a certain part of the soul that has to get stirred when it hears music, right? We have to constantly have songs and art that reminds us of how beautiful this place is. yes, we need to be told about all of the ills of society, but it is the artist's job to create some level of balance where there is none. So that's discussions that we've had on here before.
Yes.
When we had Dion Carrington about, you know, the difference between does art imitate life or does life imitate art. When we first had Dr. Roger Henry on, he spoke about the importance of music as beauty and not necessarily any sort of reflection or anything, but just come and in the classical, we call it art songs, just music that is beautiful and stuff. But here we're talking about music that reminds us of the beauty of society. And I think for me, I wanted to bring this up specifically because your TV job, aside from Breakthrough and sports, on Talking Point, you do talk about the ills of society.
Yes.
Quite often.
Yes.
Right? So in a case like this where we have art to not just to reflect what happened in society, that sometimes can be the negatives all of the time, but also the positives of society, the beauty of society. I'd like to, you know, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I want to say that, you know, don't take what Freetown is saying and cynically.
Right.
Because not all art is necessarily, you know, he's not saying have propaganda to cover up. You know, so you have propaganda, say, how great is TNT, how great is TNT?
No.
TNT is thinking, how great is TNT? And we waving the flags, woo, you know, and doing whatever is our version of the politically correct salute and politically correct slogans or whatever. Like art, I do believe all art, the artist has to have a message. The artist needs to have a voice. And there will be some art that is just there to have fun and to entertain. But then again, some arts with deeper meanings can also entertain. It doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. And I think what Freetown, what the lead singer is trying to say, what Mohammed is trying to say is, you know, we do need more of it. And it's not to pander. It is to be authentic. It's to have authentic messages of our country, it is beautiful, these are the good things, so that it's easy to say, oh, well, it's nice, right? Okay, cool. But it's not just to point out that it's beautiful and nice and everything, but to understand the importance of it. Because if, you know, like if we take it for granted, at some point it'll disappear. We'll lose it. Yeah. We take it for granted because the country is a big clump of earth in the middle of the ocean. Well, how will it disappear? Well, I said this before, we're a country only because 1.5 million of us say we're a country. Right? We have not fallen out of control because enough of us say we're not going to fall out of control. But human beings and human society is a very fragile thing, right? If it gets out of balance, it's very hard to get it back to where it should be. And it all goes back to what I've been saying before. It's like, look, everybody loves the culture, right? And when we go abroad, we could be of whatever race and background or whatever. We're all Trini, right? Abroad. But for whatever reason, just because we love the culture doesn't mean we love our country. And one of the tools to help that is art, to give us perspective, to give us an emotional attachment, give us a sense of national achievement. Art and sport could do that. But sport is limited to sporting events. Art could happen at any time.
Right.
And art could touch on anything that is nationally important, right? Art could touch on crime in a positive way, not just, you know, Trinidad music or gangster rap in the States. And I mean, this is a kind of a weird example, but of course, you know, when I bring it up, you get annoyed. But look, 5 Grammys, not like us. It's a rap song, but at the pop-out concerts, you had Bloods and Crips standing on stage together, and there was some amount of peace, of coming together, and not being divided, and not falling into the usual rivalries and violence, right? From a song that is based on a genre of music that came from an aggressive counterculture, and the song itself is kind of meant to be a club song, and the lyrics are meant to be for a diss track, and yet it's a song that unified a region, right? because it was culturally relevant and it made the region proud, right? And it didn't encourage violence. If anything, it kind of suppressed it. So I'm not saying all Trinidad music is gonna have a positive spin, but it's just to show how, you know, it doesn't just have to be greatest TNT, but rather if it's something authentic, the kind of power it could have. And we, the birthplace of Calypso, we have made musical genres and a musical instrument. Why is art in a whole, but music in particular, so mistreated in TNT, left behind, and you have all of this talent? Some people went on to have international success in music, right? Like, we have international artists like Etienne Charles, artists from the 70s and 80s and even before. You know, even that, I think Mr. Kalipasad showed it, just the two of us. It came from a slogan off of a BWIA flyer, right? Like, we have the seeds of genius here, and we kind of just let it kind of fall to waste too often. And what I'm hoping is people like yourself, like Freetown, having and trying to organically, not like, ooh, could you give us $1 million, Mr. Prime Minister, Mrs. Prime Minister, whoever, so that we could like make a thing that's not sustainable, because the moment you don't have the money, we can't sustain it. Yeah. But when you make your own thing and the industry starts to build up itself, then we could get more sustained work.
Well, I think, okay, there's a lot to respond to that. But what I would say is...
I was like,
yeah.
I was just going. This is a big topic.
I know. First thing I'd like to say is some of the beauty is in the fact that the art exists and can exist. That's one of the things that I think is very important. Not necessarily just the message that they're doing, but the fact that they can exist and coexist with other art and other artists. That's one. Two, because we not too long ago, because again, we're a fairly young nation.
Yes.
Right? And many of the things are fairly, like we didn't have tertiary level until like the late 90s, right? And that was only for music. It's only afterwards everything else, art, dance, and theater developed.
Right, you mean the arts industry, the creative side of,
yeah. No, for tertiary, on the tertiary, on the academic level. So many of it is still young, but developing really nicely. What I want to say though is, if it is that art is a movement, art is something that is I consider art a living organism that grows and that moves. And most of it, the most important characteristic of it is that it moves. So when you have excellent artists, I would say like Freetown, like Three Canal, like Etienne Charles, who create not just art, but in the art create music, create movements, and the movement is love for the art. And where does the art come from? The art comes from the country. Then that extends to love for the country. You also have, as you mentioned, people who would have gone internationally. You have people like Heather Headley, who if I'm not mistaken, the first Nala in Lion King on Broadway, right? So I think
it might have been the first, yes.
Right, and then she came back. When I say she came back, Lion King recently did a Broadway production on the Hollywood Bowl, which was just a concert of all of these songs, right? And she came and she sang, and it was great. You know, those are some of the things that we can be proud of and that we can look to. So she's part of the musical theater movement and the movie music movement, which sort of brings people together, which is sort of unifying. That's the thing, and I think that's the emotional attachment that you were probably talking about, is when people feel moved and they move with the art or where the art is taking them, then you have something that is, then when we do get to the place where, you know, we need this sort of funding, we need this, we need that, you have a backing of
you have
people
your own,
that are able to, you know, that are able to help launch and propel that movement forward.
But also it speaks to people actually knowing of it.
Yes. One of the biggest movements that we have is the steel band movement, right? Of how it started, what the development has become, and how it is now. Like the North Stand, the Grandstand, they're rammed out with people who want to see this. The steel bands themselves, they have people of all ages, people of all backgrounds, men, women, teenagers, children, adults, that in itself is a movement as well that has a huge amount of support.
Would you say that Steel Pan has been the greatest international success musically
Yes.
of the island? Because that one tragedy in the Savannah, notwithstanding with the poor girl, we have not only, it's been an instrument that's been exported around the world, there are foreign steel orchestras, we've had foreign players from the other side of the planet come to play, right? I saw one band play on TTT yesterday, and I'm not sure if it was a local Asian girl or a foreigner, because you just never know which Japanese person might randomly come to play, right? Which is cool, which is like, listen, we have a culture that is appreciated by a country that has nothing like what we do. And you would have never thought there would be anybody from there that would love what we do here, because it's just so different. And this is the gateway to the world, right? But then I have this cynical question, because between all of the patriotic songs and the acts and even how we treated the steel band, have we kind of like taken it for granted? Or even worse, we've treated it cynically. We've used it and abused it and ignored it. Too much.
I don't know, because I'm around people who value it. So it's very difficult for me to speak as sort of removed from it.
Let me put it this way. Let me put it in a very different way. Let's just say you made a song, similar to Freetown's song, right? Just in a general concept. And a political party wanted to use it as part of their campaign.
That's up to me at the time.
And let's just say, whatever you think of the average politician now, that's what these politicians are. There's not these are the average politicians of what you perceive average politicians, or what you think the public perceives average politicians to be. Because I feel as though like we we use it in those ways to kind of take advantage of it, but then we don't even necessarily like, and once that moment is done, it kind of just goes off to the wayside.
I understand right? The question now.
We use it when it's convenient, and when it's not needed, it's not important. That's one part of the question. The question is more open than that, but I made it more specific.
I know. Okay, I think I understand the question now. So I've not been in that position, so I can't really give a hardcore answer right now. But what I would say is here's my response to that question. And it's an issue that I have brought up on Talking Point before, because we have a hard time, some of us have a hard time trusting authority and trusting authority on the political level and on the law enforcement level as well. So even though it will be, oh my gosh, this is great. Yes, I'm getting this money. I'm getting paid to do this, for this to be on this campaign.
Right.
There is that. But then it's like, do I want to take that gamble and feel like I will be just thrown to the wayside after it has already been used? However, then there's the flip side of there is something about the artist not being too attached to the work, right?
Okay,
so
I have a counter to that, but okay.
So one can say, this was my project for this specific thing, but this does not define me or what my career trajectory would be thereafter.
Right.
Regardless of what public perception might be.
But let's take this song. I assume Freetown, they have something to say.
Yes,
so they wrote this song.
Of course.
Right? They have a message. Right?
Messaging is always on point.
Right? So now the thing is, if this song was allowed to kind of just be used, not cheaply, but if it was allowed to be used, if it was literally in the negative connotation of the word used, wouldn't that kind of go against, whenever an artist has a message like that, makes a piece of work like this, we hope that it's authentic, and the authenticity is kind of diminished if it's kind of just used by some sort of entity in some sort of way? Like I said, used negatively, when you use a person.
Right, I know. But if it's only being used, it's a problem. But if it's being received on both ends of the spectrum, where
Okay.
there are people who
Okay.
know of its authentic message,
Yes.
then that's the win.
Yes.
And if it's being used, let them.
If you sell it and it's monopolized by somebody to use it
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
negative way, that's bad.
Because
but
then, again,
Yeah.
coming back to the artist's job, it's out there. I kind of have to detach from it a little bit
right.
and let
Let-
it speak for itself, and however people want to
Let
use
other
it.
people enjoy it, interpret it,
Right.
use it,
So there's
experience it.
exactly. So there's the, I don't know if anybody knows about this. There's the let them theory, where it's like, this is my art. If they use it positively, if they join the movement, let them, and I will welcome them. If they want to use it and abuse it, let them go ahead. But the other side of it is, when I am asked, let me defend it when I get the chance.
Defend your art,
Exactly.
not the use of it.
Not the use, defend it and say, this is the original intention. This is what it is. I'm not going to give that negative thing energy, because if I give it any attention or any energy, it grows. So I'm going to say once, this is what my original intention was. This is what we've been able to do with it.
Would you say that, ironically, if the artist is authentic and true to the message and true to whatever message they want to have in the piece, song, poetry, image, whatever, yeah, no matter what someone else might try to use it, once the message is authentic and it's properly put out there and it's properly strong, then they could try all they want, but it will actually in some ways be counterproductive, because it will be eclipsed by, no, this is the authentic truth behind this piece.
Because what tends to happen with authenticity and inauthenticity, I cannot speak this morning. The inauthentic art is more vulnerable and more susceptible to abuse and use, and negative use and overuse than the authentic art. Because when it's the truth and when it's authentic and the message is genuine and real, it's very hard to defame it, because it has the backing of the movement that knows its authentic message to then move forward. I don't like that face.
That's why Not Like Us is still number one, even though Drake released music last week.
Oh my gosh.
1 year later, that movement's still going strong.
Exactly. But again, coming back to the point of
5 grams.
it is a movement, and once it has that backing of people who know it for what it is, then it's kind of hard. It's hard to defame it. It's hard to touch it. It's hard to touch it in that sort of way.
The man said it himself. He's what the culture's feeling.
So, on that note, speaking of movement, we are going to move to a break, and then we're going to come back to Breakthrough. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
You are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Just give an overview of what exactly is that split arrangement.
Nah, you don't need to register nothing. We can do that another time. But then it becomes a hit, and then everybody starts to want to claim.
The laws that predate many of the independent countries' constitutions are going to be those colonial laws.
We know there are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and I have a great concept, but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
We believe we defend criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploited the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
Folks, we're back and better than ever.
Your show have always appeared to be a show that is focused on going to the cause or looking to the cause.
We hardly ever talk about the white-collar crime, though. We always talk about the ones that involve more as physical violence against individuals.
The citizens will only measure transmission when water starts to flow through their taps.
The Constitution doesn't talk about local election.
Contract mafia that's responsible for looting the country, and they own and operate these politicians.
So if you are running a country and you can't say nothing as a prime minister, please take up your bag and go.
It is not comparative to the murder figures, but it is in fact very high.
I believe he's protecting certain individuals.
We are tackling the hard-hitting topics, some controversial topics, some topics we sweep under the rug.
You don't always have to forgive in a relationship for it to move forward.
If it is you are in a situation where you forgive the person, but to the detriment of yourself, what are you really doing?
It is very uncommon for somebody in the younger age group to have dementia.
Atheists don't not believe.
Is that I can't disprove God, but you also can't prove God. So we kind of at a stalemate.
We'll focus on the woman who's been the victim, right, or the man who's been the victim. We exclude the children.
Folks are trying to study the underlying brain mechanism to figure out how does this particular disorder happen in the brain? How is the brain processing this?
Don't worry about AI. Worry about humans working with AI.
Are you willing to learn new skills to stay relevant for the future job market? That's the challenge that people are going to struggle with.
Pastor J, I want to get a tattoo.
You really
respond
wanna-
to me. Respond to me. How you would respond to me?
The first question I'll ask is why.
Controversial taboo topics.
We get so consumed by church, we forget that we have to live the life of being a Christian outside of the Sunday.
Like you say,
services.
we think going to a service makes us a Christian.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Right, so here we are about to hear the second time Pastor J wanted to take a tattoo.
Would have been late last year and early this year.
Oh gosh.
Hope Unfiltered podcast with Pastor J and Ren.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
And we're back, Trinidad and Tobago, to break through. You are a moron.
I'm
and
not a moron.
Menace
I'm
to
not a
society. The largest moron.
How am I a menace to society? Here I am trying to promote the importance of art and culture in order to solidify national identity and patriotism, and you're like, oh, he's a menace.
Because you just said
I just made an observation that is true.
Be quiet. Be quiet.
That's
Anyway.
true. There were other observations I could have made at the start of the last segment, Mark, that would have been even more cynical. Very true, you know? Joy and what?
Can I continue with my show now?
Joy and what? Joy and peace?
Can I continue?
No, it's not peace. Joy and service, right.
Can I continue with my show?
Peace
Please.
is the other.
This is why you are the largest moron, and menace to society.
Okay.
Be quiet.
Yes.
Anyway, moving swiftly along. Moving the spotlight off of Sean right now.
I touched on the third rail, the rail close
and
there.
on to, moving the spotlight off of Sean right now, and on to...
He means move the camera.
Our next guest.
Go too wide.
Her name is Nisa Bailey, and she is the music lead for Festival of Flames. Can we just pull up that flyer really quickly? Festival of Flames happening on the 21st of February at 7 p.m. Festival of Flame Pandora's Box, a Jab Molassie experience. We're at the St. James Amphitheater. All right, and here to talk more about it and tell us more about it is the music lead. No, the spotlight is not on you right now. I can't speak.
On the flyer,
music lead, Nisa Bailey. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the House of Craziness, clearly. Anyway, but no, that is a really, really good flyer. So it's well designed. Yeah. So can you tell us what is Festival of Flames? And I guess I want to say, why Festival of Flames?
So Festival of Flames is a cultural preservation festival. It focuses on the traditional mass character Jab Molassie.
Okay.
So the full name is Festival of Flames Pandora's Box.
Okay.
Basically, the story of Pandora's Box is that a box was given to a girl named Pandora, and that she was told never to open it, and then she opened it, and all the evils were released into the world, and hope was the only thing that stayed. So basically, the evils that we are releasing in our terms are the devils. And the hope that we hope to remain in the box is the hope for traditional mass that is currently said to be dying.
Right.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So
we've had that conversation a lot. So I just like to, I don't know why, but when you said Cultural Preservation Festival, that hit me. Like just as simple as it was, like, oh, this is serious, right? This is not just we have a thing. It's a traditional thing. No. We know what this is about. We have a mission here to preserve, at least for now, this small corner of it.
Yes. So what I want to get into, so without telling, so you kind of gave us a summary. Can you tell us who are some of the I want to say the masterminds behind putting this together?
So our creative director is Aaron Phillip, also known as Jab Spitfire.
Yes.
He
I've seen him on the road.
Yes.
Many a times. Yes.
Yes, he is the brain behind it all. He has been developing this idea for about 2 years now, and he finally is getting to do it.
Okay, that's great. And some of the people, some of the cast members, who do you all have, and what sort of characters happening there?
So mostly it is, well, really and truly, it is just a Jab Molassie festival. He hopes to continue it yearly and develop it more so it could branch into other forms of traditional mass, maybe Dame Lorraine, Baby Doll, Sailor. So he spoke about things like Festival of Powder for Sailor Mass, those things.
Okay.
There will also be Moko Jambi's present on the day.
Okay, that's great. So, that's great. So I'm really happy to see a lot of our traditional mass really coming to the forefront in this thing. So it's happening at the St. James Amphitheater. Now I will be the face to admit I did shut up. I knew it exists, but I didn't know it was still functioning.
No, to be fair, I also, the last I heard, it wasn't.
Okay.
Right? So I was actually pleasantly surprised that it's functioning.
So when I think somebody told me, that there were probably some renovation. They undergo some recent renovation. I talked this morning.
I thought it was still under renovation.
Right.
So.
But the fact that y'all are using it for this, so a cultural, sort of a cultural staple in the St. James community, happening with this social cultural preservation project is really good. What do you hope for the audience to experience and maybe to learn from this festival?
So this festival it leads with edutainment, which is a mix of education and entertainment.
Okay.
Yes. Basically, we hope to educate the audience on devil mask, specifically Jab Malassi. But we hope to educate them because, you know, there's this whole stigma behind devil mask and, you know, so we hope to educate them on what it is and what is the history behind it.
Right.
And hopefully to preserve the culture as well.
Because that's the thing, it's a cultural history. This is not some, you know, ceremonial, religious, you know, thing. It's like, no, it's a cultural character. I guess, you know, somebody more learned than me could go into the history of it with regards to Carnival and the association with Easter and colonialism and all of that. But for us, it's just a cultural thing. We kind of understand, oh, devil mask or whatever, blue devils, whatever. But I guess it's one of those things where I kind of know it, but I'm of a certain age where I know it in part because I've lived long enough to see it in a minor way multiple times. A minor way, right? I've never experienced it in a big way, a lot of these traditional characters. Do you have any concern with a lot of young people now, especially in the digital age, where we consume more of things abroad? And you could have said before, oh, maybe it's some rich family in some rich area. They fly abroad and watch cable TV. But now the internet has made foreign media accessible to the most rural areas. And that's what they're consuming. And there's not a lot of this, you know, on YouTube and on social media. And young people, we're like, what, a couple of generations, if we're not careful, we could lose it all?
I actually talk about that a lot. So basically, I think, well, I feel like I kind of also fall into that age range of that digital era, everybody, you know. Sure. So I know about it because I feel like I went out and educated myself about it. I feel like you can't sit in your own, sorry to say, but ignorance. And just, you know, just think what you think of the cultural form as this is not just culture, it is history. This came from colonialism. This came from, and you could see that with most of the traditional mask characters. They came from a deep and dark history of colonialism. You can see for the Jab, for example, it came from not just mocking the slave masters, but when the Cambole happened and the slaves came out of the burning canes and the masters saw them with the sugar on them, the burnt sugar on them. They said, look at the devil, that's the devil.
Right.
And that's kind of where, and then multiple stories of where it came from, but that's one of the stories that they have. And they said that they used to go to the doors, like the windows of the slave masters and scare them because sometimes when they kill the slaves, the enslaved, apologies, when they kill the enslaved, they used to throw them into the vat of molasses to get rid of the bodies. So what the other slaves used to do, they used to drown themselves in the molasses and go to the windows and stand to basically scare the slave masters. So yeah,
because traditionally it's like mockery, but also do you think there might ever be a time when, I mean, first of all, I think that even if it's solved, having things like a festival like this to still have would be great. But do you think there might be a time when we might see these traditional characters more widespread in the major, I know that in maybe outside of Port of Spain and away from the Soca Drome and the stage, you might have it. But like, to some extent, there's a part of me that's like, hey, this is more interesting to look at than Beads and Feathers. I don't understand, like, how many Beads and Feathers you're going to pass to the same Road March song, you know, on the stage, on TV, you're going to watch and like, oh, this is such a great broadcast. It's like, oh, orange, green. Like, whereas when you have Dragon, Sailor, Dame Lorraine, Bookman, I don't know if the Peregrinard is a character that will also be in the road, but like when you have that, there's like, oh, design.
And design kind of come back to our first discussion, design with a story and a message behind it, right? So what is the, so on that note, what is the, you spoke about the edutainment. Sorry, I'm a little bit older now. But,
oh, you getting there?
I mean, I'm getting there. Okay. Well, you have a certain age now.
That's right.
So but you have this sort of...
Right, listen, you wish you looked this good when you reach my age, huh? Just telling you.
You have this sort of, shut up, you have this sort of edutainment happening that you hope that a lot of younger people will come out both, not just pleased, but they came out with a sense of appreciation, a sense of knowledge, but also a sense of, oh, it's not what I thought it may have been. It's not what I you know, because we have a habit of just forming opinions based on the little information that we have. But when we actually want to form a solid opinion, we actually need to get as much information as possible. Yes. So this is a great opportunity for them to experience that. What are you personally looking forward to the most with this? I know you're the music lead, so you're actually looking forward to people remembering their part and knowing when they have to enter and exit, right? And making sure that the right music is played, that sort of thing.
You have some PTSD or something? Or?
Dear God. You know, you just hope like, we're fine, right? Yes. All of the technical, but just in terms of the entire art of it all, what are you looking forward to?
I personally, I love seeing Job Malassi. I love it. I find it so cool. I actually did it for the first time recently, and I think it's so cool. And really and truly, I love seeing the performances just in general, and I'm looking forward to seeing the performances of what they're going to do. I've been to a few of their rehearsals, and it's like, wow, like just seeing them get into character. And seeing them put on the paint, like they literally transform into something. Yes, they do. Because you could be talking to them 1 minute and then they paint up and it's like different person. Literally. And that is the coolest thing to me, honestly.
Yeah, isn't that it's something more than just a carnival costume? There's a story, there's stories that they can tell, there's characters they could portray. Yes. So this is not just, ooh, because think about it, if you took beads and feathers and you tried to make a show out of it, what would that be? A soca concert, that's, you know, just a generic soca concert. But this, we're talking about something that's more than that, I guess you could say, right? And would you agree that there is so much more space for artistic potential to just grow with this?
Yes, yes, I also think that there's a lot of potential that this could be grown with. I feel like traditional mass has so far to go, and people are just kind of stuck in the mindset of, yeah, well, it's traditional mass and it could just stay as what it was. But for it to be able to continue, it needs to evolve. It needs to evolve, but it needs to evolve in a way that we don't lose the foundation. You can't lose, you can't grow without having the foundation in place. So I think that's one of the things that really needs to kind of stick, because I see that, you know, with the commercialization of traditional mass, people, you know, they have same Job Malassis, but
they're doing it without knowing.
No, yeah, people, you know, they paint with glitter and everything, and, you know, it's like, and you're seeing it and it's like, is this really what our ancestors wanted to show?
Right. Yeah. And the thing is with those stories, these things just came out of situations in the past and history and circumstances and things like that. I think part of the problem is with our tradition, and I said this about when we had an artist on, Liz, and she came out with a sort of a modern take on a folk song. And one of the points that I raised, it's very hard to maintain certain the originalities and the authenticities of the thing when it's not properly chronicled. Right, because a lot of the folk music is done by rote. There's no written transcription of it. You may know the words, whatever, but the tune may vary from region to region, depending on if it's North Trinidad, South Trinidad, deep Central, deep East Trinidad, that sort of thing. And with these sort of things, it's very hard for it to evolve, where it's it's stories, but it's not something but it's very hard to chronicle it and make sure that it stays. But with an event like this, you have the opportunity to continue telling the story, and obviously, you know, you would have things, with any theatrical, we have things like scripts now, so that's a sort of a record. You know, if you're recording, even if you record your rehearsals, that's some sort of chronicling of what it can be. Now that, you know, we're in the age of everybody doing this, right? That in itself is a sort of chronicling as well. So the preservation, which is the goal, is happening, right? So just one more, as we wrap up, let's just put up the flyer one more time, just to talk about, again, festival. Yes, Shorter's in love with the flyer.
It's so effective with its use of color, the empty space, the blue bottle. It's small, but it just grabs your attention. Greek fonts, which, You know, it marries the
Pandora's box, the theme.
Yeah,
yes.
the themes with a foreign theme. So this, in a way, is also, look, we are taking it a step further, right? We're using another cultural mythology to kind of tell our cultural mythology.
Yes. So again, Festival of Flames, February 21st. That's this Friday, this coming Friday at 7 p.m. Festival of Flames, Pandora's Box. So at the St. James Amphitheater.
I just have one quick question.
Sure.
Because one of the things, and I tried to get this across with Jesselus, I don't know if I was effective enough, but I feel like a lot of these things, people might be quick to say, well, that's the Afro-Trinidadian culture. And they kind of just discard it, don't mess with it, don't learn about it, leave it alone, and it ends up not supporting it. And I'm like, well, to some extent, yes, I understand that's where it came from, out of slavery, but it's Trinidad history. And we all have a responsibility to we could enjoy it, but we also have the responsibility to help support it and preserve it, not so? And it's just that I think it's very easy for non-Afro-Trimegonians to say, well, that's technically not for me, that's for them, so I should stay out. It's like, no. Because as a country, that responsibility falls on all of us, because who knows what could happen? We might all turn into one homogeneous mix of everything. Right? And then whose responsibility is it for the East Indian culture, the Afro-Trinidadian culture, the carnival culture, the colonial, out of colonialism culture? And just to encourage people, don't take it for granted that it's not for you. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lisa, for joining us. It was great.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, and all the best.
Yes.
All the best to it. Trinidad and Tobago, thank you so much for joining us. That has been Breakthrough. Sean, thank you so much for joining me at the table. We will have...
Sounds like you regret.
I know. But we will, we'll sort it out as the cameras wrap, all right? Thank you so much, Trinidad and Tobago. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
WESN.
Here is your WESN News on the Hour. I'm Naomi McNish.